You don't lack discipline. You lack command. Your mind isn't broken. It's untrained. It follows impulses because you've never installed rules strong enough to override them. This audiobook will show you how silence, structure, and daily systems reprogram your brain to obey instructions instead of cravings. This is not motivation. This is conditioning. By the end, you will stop negotiating with distraction and start issuing orders your mind cannot ignore. Chapter 1. Stop negotiating with yourself. Stop trying to change your life. That instruction matters, because most people fail at discipline before the day even begins. They fail because they negotiate. They wake up and ask questions they should never ask. Should I work now or later? Should I focus or check my phone? Should I push through or rest? Every question creates friction. Every question weakens command. Self-control collapses the moment the mind believes it has a vote. Discipline begins when rules replace discussion. That's the key. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer conversations with yourself. Most people think change comes from intensity. Big effort, big emotion, big promises. That approach fails because intensity is unstable. It spikes and crashes. Repetition does not crash. Repetition compounds. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. Say it again. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. That principle is not inspirational. It is mechanical. And mechanics outperform emotion every time. Look at high performers, not influencers, not performers of discipline. Real operators, athletes, surgeons, engineers, writers who produce consistently. They do not wake up asking if today is the day. They feel focused. They decided long ago what happens when the clock strikes a certain hour. They decide once, then they execute repeatedly. Rules remove friction. Decisions create weakness. Every decision drains energy. Every rule conserves it. If you decide every day whether you will work, your mind learns hesitation. If you decide once and install a rule, your mind learns obedience. You have a choice. You could train your mind to debate, or you can train it to comply. Most people train debate. They think flexibility is freedom. It is not. Flexibility is permission to escape discomfort. Discomfort is not the enemy. Negotiation is. Here is the problem most people never identify. They treat their impulses as advisors instead of noise. They listen. They respond. They bargain. That habit destroys authority. If your mind learns that resistance leads to discussion, it will resist more often. If your mind learns that resistance leads to execution anyway, resistance weakens. That's conditioning. That's psychology. That's how control is built. It's not about motivation. It's about structure. It's not about willpower. It's about rules. You don't need their permission. Not your impulses. Not your mood. Not your past habits. You're not asking your mind what it wants. You are telling it what happens. That's the shift. Here is the first rule. Never ask yourself if you will do the task. Only define when and for how long. No debate. No evaluation. No emotional check-in. Time arrives. You execute. This is not harsh. It is humane, because uncertainty exhausts the brain. Clarity calms it. Your mind wants predictability. You just haven't been giving it any. Now understand this clearly. Radical life change is a lie sold to impatient people. Your brain does not rewire through grand gestures. It rewires through repetition under stable conditions. That's why people fail after motivational surges. They try to overhaul everything at once. They add complexity. They add pressure. Pressure breaks systems. Simple systems survive. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. So we start small. Not easy. Small. Small enough that execution is guaranteed. Non-negotiable. Repeatable. That's the system. Here is a practical structure. One daily rule. Same time, same duration, same condition. For example, 30 minutes of focused work. No phone, no input. Same hour, every day. That is not impressive. It is effective. Your mind will resist at first. That's expected. Resistance means the old pattern is being challenged. Do not negotiate with resistance. Execute through it. Rules remove friction. Decisions create weakness. Notice what we are doing. We're not fighting the mind. We are training it. Training requires consistency, not emotion. Commands, not conversations. You have a choice. You can keep trying to feel ready, or you can build a structure that makes readiness irrelevant. Readiness is a feeling. Structure is a fact. Facts win. Another rule. Never stack decisions before execution. Prepare once, then reuse. Same workspace, same setup, same tools. When the environment is familiar, the mind stops scanning for alternatives. Attention stabilizes. That's the key. Your job is not a force focus. Your job is to remove exits. Every exit invites negotiation. Every removal strengthens control. You don't need their permission. You don't need approval from your future self. You don't need confidence. You need compliance. And compliance is learned. Now listen carefully. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They miss a day, then they analyze it. They judge it. They narrate it. That narration restarts negotiation. Instead, apply this rule. Miss nothing twice. No guilt. No story. Just return to the rule at the next scheduled time. Repetition beats intensity every time. Every time. That is not optimism. That is behavioral science. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So stop trying to change your life. Change what you repeat. Install rules that require no discussion. Reduce daily decisions. Execute at fixed times. That is how authority is rebuilt internally. This chapter establishes the foundation. No negotiation. No debate. Rules only. In the next chapter, we remove the noise that makes negotiation louder. We introduce silence, not as relaxation, as training, because silence is where commands become clear and resistance has nowhere to hide. Chapter 2, Silence is the training ground. Silence is not rest. Silence is not escape. Silence is not comfort. Silence is training. Most people misunderstand silence because they associate it with relaxation. They think of calm music, soft lighting, eyes closed. That is not what we are doing here. We are using silence as pressure. Silence removes stimulus. When stimulus disappears, the brain has nothing to chase. No novelty, no interruption, no reward. And when the brain has nothing to chase, it turns inward. That is when boredom appears. Boredom is not a flaw. It is a signal. Boredom tells you that your mind is addicted to stimulation. That's the key. Most people run from boredom immediately. They reach for the phone. They open a tab. They check something, anything. That reflex is not harmless. It is trained behavior. Every time you escape boredom, you teach your brain that discomfort must be avoided. Every time you stay, you teach your brain endurance. You have a choice. You could train avoidance, or you can train focus. Silence is the environment where that choice becomes unavoidable. Here is the principle. Focus does not appear when conditions are perfect. Focus appears when the brain adapts to low stimulus. Silence forces adaptation. That is why monks use it, not for spirituality alone, but for mental control. That is why elite athletes sit quietly before competition, not to relax, but to stabilize attention. That is why top thinkers protect long periods of uninterrupted quiet. They're not escaping the world. They're training their mind to stay still inside it. Silence is not absence. It is resistance training for the mind. Say it again. Silence is not absence. It is resistance training for the mind. Resistance creates strength. Noise creates dependency. Understand this clearly. If your mind cannot tolerate silence, it cannot sustain focus. Focus is staying with one thing longer than your impulses want to. Silence removes distractions so that impulse becomes visible. And once impulse is visible, it can be trained. It's not about boredom. It's about discipline. Most people confuse stimulation with productivity. They feel busy. They feel engaged. They feel occupied. But attention is fragmented, shallow, unstable. Silence exposes that instability immediately. That is why people avoid it. They say silence makes them anxious, restless, uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a warning. It is feedback. You're feeling the withdrawal from constant input. And withdrawal is where retraining begins. Here is the rule. Silence must be scheduled, not optional, not occasional. If you wait until silence feels natural, you will never practice it. You don't need their permission. Not your mood, not your environment, not your schedule. You define the time. You define the duration. You enforce it. Start with a fixed daily block. 10 minutes, 15, 30 if you can maintain posture and attention. No phone, no audio, no reading, no writing. Sit, stand, or walk slowly. Your only task is to stay present without reaching for stimulus. This is not meditation in the popular sense. There is no goal of calm. There is no visualization. There is only non-escape. That's the key. Your mind will attempt to negotiate. It will offer thoughts, memories, plans, concerns. Do not suppress them. Do not follow them. Let them pass without response. This trains the same muscle as focus, staying without reacting. Silence is where impulse loses leverage. Remember this. Impulse feeds on movement. When you stop moving toward it, it weakens. Silence is stillness. Stillness starves impulse. Silence is not absence. It is resistance training for the mind. Here is what will happen over time. The first sessions will feel long, uncomfortable, restless. Then something shifts. The mind stops scanning. Attention stabilizes. Thoughts slow. Not because you force them to, because the brain adapts to the environment you keep exposing it to. Repetition beats intensity every time. One long silent retreat does less than daily short silent sessions. Because the brain learns through frequency, not drama. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. This is how silence fits into the system. It is not a break from discipline. It is discipline. It strengthens your ability to stay with one task, to resist interruption, to tolerate lack of stimulation. That tolerance carries over into work, into learning, into execution. If you cannot sit in silence, you cannot work deeply. The same muscle is used. That's not philosophy. That's training logic. Another rule. Silence comes before focus work. Always. Why? Because silence clears residue. Your mind carries noise from previous tasks. Messages, images, fragments. Silence lets that residue settle. Think of it as mental sediment. When you stop shaking the container, clarity appears. That's the key. This is why high performers protect quiet mornings. No input, no conversation, no scrolling. They start the day by asserting control over attention. You have a choice. Begin the day reacting, or begin the day commanding. Silence teaches command. Now a warning. Do not turn silence into another performance. No tracking streaks for validation. No posting about it. No explaining it to others. You don't need their permission. Silence works because it removes external reference points. Once you add an audience, you add noise. Keep it clean, private, non-negotiable. Miss a day, return the next day. No analysis, no guilt. Rules remove friction. Decisions create weakness. Silence is a rule, not a suggestion. By now, you should see the pattern. We are not chasing feelings. We are building conditions. Conditions train behavior. Behavior trains identity. In the next chapter, we remove the final illusion. The belief that willpower will carry you through. It will not. Next, we replace effort with systems. Because willpower is finite, and systems are not. Chapter 3. Willpower is a finite resource. Systems are not. Willpower feels powerful. That is why people trust it. That trust is misplaced. Willpower is a fuel source. It drains. It fluctuates. It disappears under pressure. Systems do not feel powerful. They are quiet. They repeat. They do not care how you feel. That's the difference. Most people try to run their life on willpower. They push harder on difficult days. They promise themselves they will try again tomorrow. They treat effort like a solution. Effort is not a solution. It is a temporary input. When effort fades, behavior collapses. You have a choice. You can keep relying on a resource that depletes, or you can build a structure that executes without emotion. That's the key. Willpower exhausts quickly. Systems operate without emotion or energy. Say it again. Systems operate without emotion or energy. This is not an opinion. It is how the brain works. Every decision consumes cognitive resources. Every emotional override consumes more. By midday, most people are already depleted. That is why good intentions fail in the evening. Not because people are weak, because the system they rely on is fragile. High performers understand this early. They do not trust their mood. They do not trust their energy. They do not trust their motivation. They trust their routines. Fixed routines outperform motivation-based productivity every time. Why? Because routines remove choice. Choice invites debate. Debate drains willpower. Drain leads to collapse. Rules remove friction. Decisions create weakness. A system does not ask how you feel. It does not ask what today looks like. It executes because the condition was met. Time arrives. Action follows. That is a system. Here is a simple definition. A system is a rule that triggers behavior automatically. Not a plan, not a goal, a trigger. For example, at 6:30 a.m., you sit at the desk. At 7 p.m., you walk. After silence, you work. No evaluation, no adjustment, no mood check. Systems execute even when you don't feel like it. Say it again. Systems execute even when you don't feel like it. That phrase matters because it removes a common excuse. I'll do it when I'm ready. Readiness is not required. Execution is. You don't need their permission. Not your feelings. Not your energy level. Not your past failures. Systems bypass all of that. Most people resist systems because they think systems are restrictive. They believe structure limits freedom. That belief is backwards. Lack of structure forces constant decision-making. Constant decision-making exhausts the mind. Exhausted minds seek comfort. Comfort is distraction. Systems remove the need to choose. When choice disappears, mental noise drops. Focus becomes possible. That's the key. Now understand this clearly. A system does not have to be complex to be effective. In fact, complexity is dangerous. The brain resists complicated rules. Simple rules survive. One trigger, one action, one outcome. Here is a rule to install. Work happens at the same time, in the same place for the same duration. That's it. No optimization, no customization, no variation. Variation invites negotiation. Stop negotiating with yourself. If the system exists, you follow it. If you follow it long enough, obedience becomes automatic. This is conditioning. You're not forcing yourself. You're training yourself. Most people think training requires intensity. It does not. Training requires consistency under stable conditions. Repetition beats intensity every time. A single week of strict routine outperforms months of inconsistent effort. Why? Because the brain learns patterns, not promises. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. That sentence applies here fully. Your output is the result of your systems. Nothing else. If your system allows distraction, you get distraction. If your system enforces focus, you get focus. It's not about talent. It's not about discipline as a personality trait. It's about design. It's not about laziness. It's about leverage. Now a correction. Many people think a system means rigidity in everything. That is not required. You systemize what matters most. Focus blocks, sleep time, silence, movement. You leave the rest flexible. This preserves energy where it counts. Another rule, never build a system that requires constant monitoring. If you need reminders, alarms, and motivation to maintain it, it is too fragile. A good system survives low-energy days. Systems execute even when you don't feel like it. Here is a real-world example. Elite athletes do not decide each day whether to train. Training is scheduled, non-negotiable. They may adjust intensity. They do not adjust presence. Presence is the system. Writers who publish consistently do the same. They write at fixed hours. They stop at fixed times. They do not wait for inspiration. Inspiration follows execution. That's the key. You have a choice. Build a system that works when conditions are perfect, or build one that works when they are not. Only one survives. Now apply this immediately. Identify one behavior that currently depends on willpower. Replace it with a trigger. Example, instead of "I'll work when I have time," use "at 9 a.m. I work for 45 minutes. No exception language. No backup plans. Miss a day? Resume the next day. Rules remove friction. Decisions create weakness. Do not stack systems too quickly. One at a time. Install. Stabilize. Then add. This prevents overload. Remember, we're not trying to feel disciplined. We are building conditions where discipline is unnecessary. That's the point. Willpower is a tool. Use it to install systems. Then stop relying on it. Once the system is installed, willpower can rest. Silence prepares the mind. Systems command behavior. In the next chapter, we address what quietly undermines both. Your environment. Because if the environment contradicts the system loses. Next, we reverse that control. Chapter 4. Your environment is controlling you. Reverse it. You are not as independent as you think. Your behavior is being guided. Quietly. Constantly. Not by your intentions. By your environment. The brain responds automatically to cues. This is not weakness. It is design. A sound appears. The head turns. A notification lights up. Attention shifts. No decision was made. The environment acted first. That's the key. If you do not control the environment, it will control you. Say it again. Control the environment, or it will control you. Most people try to discipline behavior while leaving cues untouched. They attempt focus in rooms built for distraction. They promise restraint while surrounding themselves with triggers. That approach fails every time. You have a choice. Fight impulses endlessly, or remove what creates them. One approach drains energy. The other conserves it. Willpower is not meant to fight constant stimulus. It is meant to install structure and step aside. The environment does the rest. Here is the first principle. Behavior follows visibility. What you see pulls attention. What you hear pulls attention. What is within reach invites use. This is why removing phone access increases deep focus without effort. No heroics, no struggle, no internal speeches. The cue disappears. The impulse weakens. That is not discipline. That is design. Most people keep their phone within reach while trying to focus. They say they are practicing self-control. They are practicing resistance against a loaded stimulus. That's inefficient. High performers do not test themselves unnecessarily. They remove temptation. Monks remove excess. Athletes simplify surroundings. Thinkers isolate tools. Not because they are fragile, because they understand leverage. Control the environment, or it will control you. Look at your workspace. Is it neutral, or is it loud? Every open tab is a cue. Every notification is a command. Every unnecessary object is a suggestion. The brain does not ignore suggestions. It processes them. Processing consumes attention. That's the key. If you want sustained focus, reduce what demands processing. This is not minimalism as an aesthetic. It is minimalism as a control strategy. Here's a rule. The space where you focus must contain only what the task requires. Nothing else. No backup entertainment. No secondary screens. No background input. Silence we established earlier. Now we remove visual noise. You don't need their permission. Not from coworkers. Not from friends. Not from your past habits. This is your training ground. Another rule. Distance beats discipline. If the phone is in your pocket, discipline is required. If the phone is in another room, discipline is unnecessary. Distance removes friction from focus and adds friction to distraction. That's intelligent design. Most people reverse this. They keep distraction close and expect restraint. That is backwards. Control the environment, or it will control you. Now understand something important. The environment is not just physical. Digital environments count. Schedules count. People count. If your calendar is cluttered, your attention will be fragmented. If your inbox is always open, your mind will be reactive. If interruptions are allowed, focus will never stabilize. Rules must extend beyond objects. Here is a system. Designate protected focus blocks. During these blocks, interruptions are not allowed. Messages wait. Notifications are disabled. Doors are closed. This is not arrogance. It is clarity. You are not unavailable. You are unavailable to distraction. That distinction matters. You have a choice. Let others dictate your attention, or define boundaries and enforce them. Boundaries are environmental rules. Rules remove friction. Decisions create weakness. If you decide every time whether to respond, you drain energy. If the rule is responses happen after the block, the decision disappears. The environment enforces the rule. That's the key. Now consider this carefully. Your home environment trains you daily. If entertainment is immediate and work requires setup, you will choose entertainment. If work is immediate and entertainment requires effort, you will choose work. Not because of character, because of structure. You don't change your life, you change what you repeat. And repetition is shaped by environment. Here is a corrective action. Reverse effort. Make focus easy to start. Make distraction hard to access. Prepare your workspace the night before. Open the necessary document. Close everything else. When you sit down, the path of least resistance should be execution. Another rule. Never trust future restraint. If you think, I'll just ignore it, you are negotiating. Negotiation invites failure. Design eliminates negotiation. This is why systems work. This is why silence works. This is why environment matters. They remove the need for constant self-control. Self-control is not about fighting urges. It is about preventing unnecessary ones. That's the key. Let's address a common objection. Some people say they need stimulation to think. That belief comes from dependency, not truth. Deep thinking requires stable attention. Stable attention requires low stimulus. Noise creates shallow movement. Silence creates depth. The environment that supports depth is quiet, simple, and predictable. Predictability calms the brain. Calm allows focus. This is training logic. Another rule: one environment, one purpose. Do not mix focus with entertainment. Do not work where you scroll. Do not scroll where you work. Mixing purposes confuses the brain. Confusion weakens habit formation. Clarity strengthens it. You have a choice. Allow overlap or enforce separation. Separation wins. Control the environment or it will control you. Now observe something subtle. People often blame themselves for distraction. They say they lack discipline. In reality, they built a trap and stepped into it repeatedly. That's not a character flaw. It's a design flaw. Fix the design. Do not moralize behavior that is environmentally driven. Redesign it. This removes shame. It restores agency. Agency is command. By now, the pattern should be clear. We are removing strain, reducing decisions, eliminating negotiation. Silence removes auditory stimulus. Systems remove decision fatigue. Environment removes temptation. Each layer strengthens the next. This is not about becoming extreme. It is about becoming precise. Precision beats force. Now apply this today. Choose one environment. Work, sleep, focus. Remove one cue that triggers distraction there. Just one. Stabilize it. Repeat. Repetition beats intensity every time. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. In the next chapter, we address a mistake many disciplined people still make. They chase intensity. We will correct that because discipline is not built through extremes. It is built through consistency. Next, discipline is installed through repetition, not intensity. Chapter 5. Discipline is installed through repetition, not intensity. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think it arrives through force, through effort, through dramatic change. That belief causes failure. Discipline is not installed through intensity. It is installed through repetition. Intensity is loud. Repetition is quiet. And quiet systems last. Consistency rewires neural pathways faster than extreme effort. That is not philosophy. That is biology. The brain adapts to what it encounters often, not what it encounters dramatically. That's the key. One long session does not rewire behavior. It creates a memory. Repeated sessions create a pathway. Pathways become defaults. Defaults become identity. This is why 30 minutes daily of uninterrupted focus outperforms occasional long sessions. Every time, 30 minutes trains compliance. 3 hours trains exhaustion. You have a choice. Train your brain to show up daily, or train it to associate work with strain. Only one leads to discipline. Most people chase intensity because intensity feels productive. They want to feel the effort. They want proof they're trying. Trying is not training. Training is boring, predictable, unremarkable, and effective. Small actions repeated become mental law. Say it again. Small actions repeated become mental law. Law does not argue. Law does not negotiate. Law executes. That is what repetition creates. When a behavior is repeated under stable conditions, the brain stops questioning it. It stops evaluating. It stops resisting. The behavior becomes expected. Expectation removes friction. Rules remove friction. Decisions create weakness. Intensity creates decisions. How long should I go today? How hard should I push? Should I do more? Repetition removes them. You show up. You do the same thing. You stop. That's it. This is why extreme routines fail. They demand too much adaptation too quickly. The brain resists overload. Not because it is lazy, because it is protective. The brain is designed to conserve energy. Repetition feels safe. Intensity feels threatening. So the brain sabotages intensity. That's the key. If you want discipline, stop trying to overwhelm yourself. Install a minimum standard, one that is easy to repeat, hard to avoid, Impossible to debate. You don't need their permission. Not your ego, not your ambition, not your fear of starting small. Starting small is not weakness. It is strategy. Here is the rule. Set the smallest version of the habit that still requires discipline. Not zero effort, but contained effort. For focus that is time-bound. 30 minutes. Same hour. Same conditions. No extension. No shortening. When time ends, you stop, even if you want to continue. Why? Because stopping on schedule preserves consistency. Consistency is the priority. Most people break habits by overextending. They feel good. They push longer. They burn out. Burnout interrupts repetition. Interruption kills discipline. Small actions, repeated, become mental law. This applies everywhere. Focus, exercise, learning, sleep routines. The brain does not care about your peak days. It cares about your average. And averages are built through repetition. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. Now listen carefully. Repetition only works under stable conditions. Same time, same environment, same trigger. Change any variable too often and the brain resets adaptation. That is why random productivity schedules fail. They feel flexible. They feel free. They are ineffective. Freedom comes after automation, not before. You have a choice. Protect repetition or chase variation. Variation entertains. Repetition trains. This is where many people become impatient. They say this feels slow. Good. Slow means sustainable. Fast change excites the ego. Slow change rewires the nervous system. That's the key. Another rule: never increase intensity until repetition is automatic. If you struggle to start, intensity is too high. If you miss days, intensity is too high. Reduce. Stabilize. Repeat. This is not quitting. This is calibration. Calibration is discipline. Most people think discipline is about pushing. It is not. It is about removing failure points. Repetition removes failure points. Consider this example. Two people want to build focus. One works 5 hours once a week. The other works 30 minutes every day. After a month, the second person has more control, more consistency, less resistance. Why? Because the brain learned a daily pattern. Patterns matter more than volume. That's not motivational language. That's pattern psychology. Small actions, repeated, become mental law. Now let's address a common trap: tracking intensity instead of adherence. People measure how much they did. They should measure how often they showed up. Adherence builds discipline. Output follows. Change what you measure. Another rule: never miss twice. We already established this. It applies here strongly. Missing once is noise. Missing twice is a pattern. Break the pattern immediately. No guilt, no story, no adjustment. Return to the smallest version of the rule. Rules remove friction. Decisions create weakness. This is how discipline becomes calm. No drama, no extremes, just quiet execution. You have a choice. Build discipline that depends on how you feel, or build discipline that ignores feeling entirely. Feelings fluctuate. Systems remain. This chapter completes an important shift. We have removed negotiation. We have removed noise. We have installed systems. We have prioritized repetition over force. Now we address something deeper. Even with repetition, people still fail if identity is wrong. In the next chapter, we correct that. Because discipline does not survive when behavior conflicts with identity. Next, your brain needs rules, not motivation. Chapter 6, boredom is the gateway to mastery. Boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is the signal. Most people misinterpret boredom as failure. They think something is wrong. They think they need stimulation. They think they need a change. They are incorrect. Discomfort signals the brain is adapting, not failing. That's the key. Boredom appears when the brain is no longer entertained by novelty, when stimulus drops, when input slows. This is not a problem. This is the beginning of depth. If you flee boredom, you forfeit control. Say it again. If you flee boredom, you forfeit control. Control requires staying when the mind wants to leave. Most people never train this capacity. They exit the moment boredom appears. They switch tasks. They check something. They refresh. Each escape trains distraction. Each endurance trains focus. You have a choice. Teach your brain that boredom must be eliminated, or teach it that boredom must be endured. Only one leads to mastery. Consider this carefully. Every skill worth mastering contains boredom. Repetition, slow progress, long stretches without reward. Those who escape boredom stay distracted. Those who endure it gain depth. This applies universally. Studying, writing, training, thinking. Depth is built beyond the boredom threshold. Most people never cross it. They confuse boredom with lack of talent. They say, maybe this isn't for me. In reality, they encountered the training phase and quit. That's the key. Boredom is the filter. It separates consumers from builders, observers from practitioners, talkers from operators. If you can stay present through boredom, you gain access to a level most people never reach. But staying requires structure. You do not endure boredom by force. You endure it by rules. Rules remove the option to escape. This is where systems protect you from yourself. Here is the rule. When boredom appears during a focus block, you do not switch tasks. You stay. You continue the assigned action. Reading, writing, thinking. No substitution, no optimization, no stimulation. Boredom is not a cue to change direction. It is a cue to deepen attention. That's the correction most people never make. They treat boredom as feedback about the task. It is feedback about their tolerance. Tolerance is trainable. Silence trained this. Repetition reinforced it. Now boredom tests it. If you escape now, you undo the work. If you stay, you compound it. If you flee boredom, you forfeit control. Another critical point. Boredom does not mean nothing is happening. It means change is subtle. The brain is rewiring beneath awareness. Neural adaptation is quiet. It does not announce itself. This is why people quit early. They expect a feeling. They expect clarity. They expect momentum. They get boredom instead, and they misinterpret it. You don't need their permission. Not from your feelings. Not from your expectations. Not from your impatience. Training does not require your approval. Here is an important distinction. Boredom is different from confusion. Confusion means the task is unclear. Boredom means the task is clear and repetitive. Confusion requires clarification. Boredom requires endurance. Do not confuse the two. If the task is well-defined and boredom appears, you are exactly where you should be. That's the key. High-level performers understand this intuitively. They expect boredom. They plan for it. They do not personalize it. Monks sit through monotony. Athletes repeat drills endlessly. Craftsmen refine the same motion thousands of times. They are not chasing stimulation. They are installing precision. Precision comes from repetition under boredom. This is why stimulation is dangerous. It teaches the brain to demand novelty. Novelty destroys depth. Depth requires sustained attention on the same object. Boredom is the price. You have a choice. Pay the price, or remain shallow. Now apply this practically. During your daily focus block, identify the moment boredom appears. Do not react. Notice it. Label it internally. Boredom. Then continue. No adjustment. No commentary. This is not mindfulness for calm. This is training for control. Staying rewires your response to discomfort. Over time, something changes. The boredom threshold moves. What once felt unbearable becomes neutral. What once triggered escape becomes manageable. Then depth appears, not as excitement, as steadiness. Steadiness is power. Small actions, repeated, become mental law. Boredom accelerates that law. Now, a warning. Do not try to eliminate boredom through intensity. People do this unconsciously. They increase speed. They add complexity. They multitask. That avoids boredom temporarily and destroys mastery permanently. Mastery is slow, methodical, often dull. Accept that. This acceptance is not resignation. It is strategic alignment with reality. Reality does not care what you prefer. It responds to what you repeat. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. And repetition includes repeating the experience of boredom without escaping. Another rule: never reward boredom with stimulation. Do not push through and then celebrate with distraction. That teaches the brain that boredom is something to endure until relief arrives. Instead, end the session cleanly, on time, without reward. The absence of relief teaches the brain neutrality. Neutrality weakens craving. Craving drives distraction. This is conditioning. If you flee boredom, you forfeit control. One more correction. Some people believe boredom means they are not passionate. Passion is unreliable. It fluctuates. Mastery does not depend on passion. It depends on presence. Presence can be trained. Passion cannot be commanded. Do not confuse emotional excitement with alignment. Alignment is quiet. It feels like showing up without argument. That's the key. As this chapter closes, understand where we are in the sequence. You stopped negotiating. You installed silence. You replaced willpower with systems. You redesigned the environment. You prioritized repetition over intensity. Now boredom appears as the final gate. Most people turn back here. You will not, because boredom is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that training is working. In the next chapter, we formalize this further. We move from tolerance to command. We install non-negotiable daily rules. Because once boredom no longer controls you, rules can. Next, install non-negotiable daily commands. Chapter 7. Install non-negotiable daily commands. Discipline is fragile when it can be debated. Hesitation undermines execution. Internal discussion is wasted energy. You do not need permission from your mind. You do not negotiate with impulses. You issue commands. Commands remove friction. Commands remove doubt. Commands remove choice. That's the key. Most people attempt self-control through suggestion. I should wake early. I might work now. I could start later if I feel ready. These are not rules. They are invitations to failure. Non-negotiable commands eliminate all negotiation. They are installed once, followed always, repeated daily. Example: fixed wake times. At 6 a.m., you rise. No discussion, no bargaining. Your body obeys because your brain learned the expectation. Example: work blocks. At 9 a.m., you sit at your desk. Focus begins. Duration is defined. Execution is automatic. Systems execute even when you don't feel like it. Commands extend that principle. You have a choice. Live in a negotiable schedule or live in a ruled one. Non-negotiable schedules remove the need for willpower. Willpower is finite. Rules are permanent. Small actions, repeated, become mental law. What is non-negotiable becomes effortless. Say it again. What is non-negotiable becomes effortless. Your mind resists when you allow debate. It resists less when the rule is absolute. It resists nothing when the rule is installed and repeated daily. Here is the principle. Define one non-negotiable command per domain. Morning routine. Focus blocks. Exercise. Silence. Install. Enforce. Repeat. Do not overcomplicate. One command per area. Consistency is more important than volume. Most people fail because they stack too many rules at once. The brain collapses under complexity. Start minimal. Stabilize. Expand gradually. Non-negotiable commands also protect from boredom and distraction. The moment the mind wants to escape, the command asserts itself. Presence is enforced automatically. That's the advantage of command over motivation. Motivation fluctuates. Commands persist. Another rule: track nothing. Do not check adherence obsessively. Do not seek approval. Execution itself is the measure. Monitoring introduces debate. Debate weakens command. You don't need their permission. Not your ego. Not your willpower. Not external validation. Here is a concrete example. Wake at 6 a.m. daily. Immediately sit in silence for 15 minutes. Then begin your first focus block at 6:30 a.m. No exceptions. No negotiation. No variation. Your mind will resist initially. It will argue. It will suggest alternative actions. Ignore it. Obey the rule. Repeat tomorrow. What is non-negotiable becomes effortless. Another principle: sequence commands logically. One triggers the next. Silence triggers focus. Focus triggers work completion. Work completion triggers rest. This reduces decision fatigue. It converts structure into momentum. Most people attempt rules without sequence. They treat habits as isolated. That wastes energy. That invites negotiation. Repetition beats intensity every time. Sequence enforces compliance. Here is a practical approach. Identify your high-leverage behaviors. Pick one command per behavior. Set a fixed time, duration, and condition. Repeat daily. Do not negotiate. Do not skip. This is how self-control becomes automatic. Commands also anchor identity. When you obey a rule without question, you tell your brain, "I'm the kind of person who executes, not debates." Identity reinforces behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. Commands dictate repetition. Repetition dictates mastery. Another correction: do not confuse rigidity with discipline. Rigidity is inflexible reaction. Discipline is automatic execution. Non-negotiable rules create discipline, not rigidity. Small actions, repeated, become mental law. What is non-negotiable becomes effortless. By now, you should see the hierarchy. Silence prepares attention. Systems reduce decision fatigue. Environment removes temptation. Repetition rewires the brain. Non-negotiable commands enforce execution. No argument, no debate, no hesitation. Your job is to install, enforce, and repeat. Apply this immediately. Pick one high-priority behavior. Define one absolute rule. Execute it daily. No exceptions. The effect compounds. Obedience grows. Willpower becomes optional. This chapter closes with one final reminder. Discipline is not felt. Discipline is repeated. Discipline is commanded. In the next chapter, we build the focus muscle itself. Attention is not given. It is trained, and the training begins now. Next, focus is a muscle. Train it or lose it. Chapter 8. Focus is a muscle. Train it or lose it. Focus is not a trait. It is a skill. And like any skill, it atrophies without practice. Attention decays without deliberate training. That is not theory. That is biology. Most people believe they are focused. They check email. They scroll social media. They multitask. That is not focus. It is scattered attention. Shallow, fragmented, unstable. Focus requires resistance. It requires structure. It requires repeated effort. Attention grows where it is forced to stay. Say it again. Attention grows where it is forced to stay. Most people allow attention to drift. Every notification, every distraction, every impulse invites movement. The brain obeys what is easiest. It defaults to novelty. That is the problem. Left alone, attention will flee. Training it requires boundaries, schedule blocks, clear conditions, define tasks. Here is the principle. Time alone does not create focus. Structure does. Rules do. Scheduled deep work blocks rebuild sustained concentration. Example, a 2-hour block of uninterrupted work. No phone, no music, no input other than the task. The mind resists initially. It tests limits. It proposes escape. Obey the rule. Remain present. Repeat tomorrow. That is how focus strengthens. Not by willpower, not by motivation, by consistency. Another rule, start small. Begin with 30 minutes if 2 hours feels impossible. Same time, same place, same trigger. Repeat daily. Repetition beats intensity every time. The brain adapts to what is repeated. It does not adapt to rare peaks. It adapts to consistent exposure. You have a choice. Let attention wander freely, or enforce conditions that make wandering impossible. Focus is a muscle. Muscles grow under tension. They weaken under neglect. Every day, without deliberate attention training, focus erodes. Every session of enforced attention strengthens it. That's the key. Here is a correction. Many people confuse busy work with focus training. Replying to messages is not focus. Scrolling through documents is not focus. Shallow work is not work. Only deep, uninterrupted, deliberate engagement builds the muscle. Attention grows where it is forced to stay. Do not negotiate. Do not rationalize. Do not divide. One task, one block, one session. Another rule. Remove all cues for distraction before the block begins. Environment matters. Distance from phone, notifications off, doors closed. The fewer the decisions, the more attention can persist. High performers protect these blocks like sacred time. They do not allow intrusions. They do not adjust. They repeat. This is how sustained concentration becomes automatic. Not through effort, through design. Repetition makes it habitual. Habitual makes it effortless. Now a warning. Do not overextend initially. Long, unfocused sessions teach the brain that effort is painful. Short, consistent sessions teach endurance. Small actions, repeated, become mental law. That applies to focus as much as any behavior. Another rule, track progress by adherence, not output. Did you show up for the session? Yes or no? Nothing else matters. Showing up strengthens the muscle. Output follows naturally. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. You repeat focus consistently. Focus becomes stronger. Distraction weakens. Here is a practical application. Schedule your first session tomorrow. 30 to 60 minutes of single task work. Same location. Same time. No negotiation. No exceptions. Obey the rule. Force attention to remain. Observe resistance without acting on it. Repeat daily. Over time, attention expands. It persists longer. It deepens. It becomes automatic. That is how mastery begins. Your mind will test limits. Distraction will appear. Impulse will rise. Do not yield. Do not rationalize. Command adherence. Attention grows where it is forced to stay. Finally, note this. Focus without systems fails. Focus without rules collapses under temptation. Focus without silence is shallow. Focus is strongest when layered on prior training. Silence prepares the mind. Systems automate execution. Environment removes temptation. Repetition installs consistency. Commands enforce obedience. Focus is the next muscle. Training it now ensures all prior efforts compound. In the next chapter, we address identity. Because sustained focus fails if your behavior contradicts who you believe yourself to be. Next, replace motivation with identity-based rules. Chapter 9. Replace motivation with identity-based rules. Motivation is unreliable. It fluctuates. It rises and falls like a tide. Most people believe discipline comes from motivation. They wait for the feeling to appear. They postpone action until inspiration strikes. That is a trap. It guarantees inconsistency. Identity is permanent. Identity does not depend on emotion. It sustains behavior over time. Rules define identity. Identity sustains discipline. Say it again. Rules define identity. Identity sustains discipline. Example. Consider the difference between saying, "I'll work if I feel motivated" versus "I do not skip my sessions." The first depends on emotion. The second depends on identity. Identity outlasts feelings. Identity does not negotiate. Identity does not bargain. This is why high performers anchor habits in identity, not desire. They do not ask, "Am I inspired?" They act because identity dictates action. You have a choice. Be guided by fluctuating feelings, or be guided by fixed identity rules. Rules create identity. Identity enforces rules. This forms a closed loop of automatic compliance. Another principle, systemization without identity is fragile. You can have schedules, silence, focus blocks, and environment control. But if you believe, "I am not disciplined," the systems will falter under pressure. Identity aligns behavior with self-concept. It prevents hesitation. It prevents negotiation. Practical application. Install statements of identity as commands. I am someone who does not skip sessions. I am someone who prioritizes focus above distraction. I am someone who respects rules, not moods. Speak them internally. Repeat them daily. Act as if they are absolute. The repetition embeds them. Embedded identity directs behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. Small actions, repeated, become mental law. Identity ensures the law is enforced. Most people ignore this. They chase external outcomes. They chase results. They chase feelings. Results do not sustain. Feelings do not sustain. Identity does. Another correction. Do not confuse identity with ego. Ego demands recognition. Identity demands compliance. Identity-based rules eliminate debate. They remove excuses. They enforce execution. Example. Someone motivated by results may skip a session if they feel tired. Someone anchored in identity completes it anyway. Energy does not matter. Motivation does not matter. Identity matters. This is not philosophy. It is applied psychology. Identity shapes neural pathways. Identity creates automatic behavior. Your daily rules now have 2 layers. 1. Structural execution, systems, commands, environment. 2. Identity alignment, statements, beliefs, self-definition. Without the second, the first is fragile. With the second, compliance becomes effortless. You don't need motivation. You need identity. Rules define identity. Identity sustains discipline. Now, the final point. Monitor your internal dialogue. When you hear, "I don't feel like it," replace it immediately with, "I do not skip this session." Do not negotiate. Do not delay. Do not rationalize. Obedience to identity strengthens the neural pathway of discipline. Every execution reinforces belief. Every skip weakens it. 1 missed session is noise. 2 missed sessions is a pattern. Break the pattern immediately. This closes the gap between desire and execution. Identity-based rules transform inconsistent motivation into automatic discipline. By now, the foundation is complete. Silence prepares the mind. Systems automate behavior. Environment removes temptation. Repetition installs consistency. Commands enforce execution. Focus is trained. Identity ensures endurance. In the next chapter, we finalize the strategy. We convert all principles into a lifelong framework of attention, discipline, and mastery. Next, the final layer, compounding mastery through daily systems. Chapter 10, Obedience precedes freedom. Freedom is misunderstood. Most people think freedom means doing what they want when they want. That belief creates chaos. True freedom comes from mastery over impulses, not their expression, their control. The disciplined mind is the free mind. Say it again. The disciplined mind is the free mind. This is not a slogan. It is a conclusion drawn from everything you have learned so far. A mind that reacts is not free. It is obedient to stimulus. A mind that obeys rules is not restricted. It is protected. Protection creates clarity. Clarity creates calm. Calm creates freedom. Disciplined minds experience less stress and more clarity because fewer decisions are required. Fewer decisions mean less internal conflict. Less conflict means less mental noise. That's the key. Most stress is not caused by workload. It is caused by indecision, by contradiction, by negotiating with impulses all day long. When rules are clear, the mind rests. Obedience sounds harsh to people who associate it with loss. They imagine submission. They imagine control by others. That is not what we are talking about. This is self-obedience. You decide the rules. You install them. You follow them. No one else is involved. You don't need their permission. Not from society. Not for peers. Not from a version of you that resists discipline. Obedience to your own structure is sovereignty. That's the reversal most people never understand. When a mind is untrained, impulses dominate. When a mind is trained, impulses quiet down. Freedom is not the absence of rules. Freedom is living under rules that serve you. The disciplined mind is the free mind. Look at people who lack discipline. Their days are reactive. They chase messages. They chase stimulation. They chase comfort. They feel busy. They feel stressed. They feel behind. Now look at disciplined people. Their days are predictable. They know when they work. They know when they rest. They know what happens next. That predictability is not boring. It is liberating. Liberation comes from certainty. Certainty removes anxiety. You have a choice. Live reactively and call it freedom, or live deliberately and experience actual freedom. Everything you have installed so far points to this outcome. Silence trained your tolerance. Systems removed emotional dependence. Environment eliminated temptation. Repetition rewired behavior. Commands enforced consistency. Focus strengthened attention. Identity sustained discipline. All of it leads here. Obedience precedes freedom. If you cannot obey yourself, you cannot free yourself. That's the key. Many people resist this idea because they confuse discipline with punishment. Discipline is not punishment. It is alignment. Punishment restricts without purpose. Discipline restricts to create capacity. Capacity is freedom. Think of a musician. They practice scales endlessly. That repetition looks restrictive, but that obedience to structure allows creative freedom later. The same applies to the mind. A mind that cannot stay still cannot think deeply. A mind that cannot resist impulse cannot choose meaningfully. Choice without control is illusion. Control enables choice. The disciplined mind is the free mind. Now understand something important. Freedom is not achieved once. It is maintained daily. There is no finish line. There is only repetition. That is not discouraging. It is stabilizing. You do not need to chase progress. You need to maintain structure. Structure sustains freedom. This is why people relapse when they relax discipline. They believe they earned freedom by being disciplined for a while. Discipline is not a phase. It is a system. Remove the system and impulses return. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. And repetition never stops. This does not mean life becomes rigid. It becomes clear. Clarity allows flexibility where it matters. Disciplined people are not rigid. They are selective. They do not negotiate with fundamentals. They allow flexibility in low-impact areas. This preserves energy and attention. That's intelligent freedom. Here is the final rule. Never trade structure for comfort. Comfort is temporary. Structure compounds. When you feel the urge to relax discipline, pause. Ask one question. Is this increasing my freedom or reducing it? If it reduces control, it reduces freedom. You already know the answer most of the time. You have a choice. Follow impulse or follow structure. One feels easy now. The other feels easy later. Freedom lives later. The disciplined mind is the free mind. This audiobook was not designed to motivate you. It was designed to condition you. If you apply what you've learned, change is inevitable. Not dramatic, not emotional, mechanical. And mechanical systems work. Now the challenge is simple. Return to your rules tomorrow. Silence first, then system, then focus, then repetition. Do not add more. Do not optimize. Do not negotiate. Execute. And one final instruction. If this training aligns with how you want your mind to function, clear, controlled, disciplined, then subscribe to this channel. Not for entertainment, for reinforcement. Return regularly. Repetition builds authority. Authority builds freedom. The disciplined mind is the free mind. That is the end of the training.